Well, folks, thanks for tuning in again today. We have got a lot of stuff to cover. We're going to do it in a short period of time so you can get back to real life and you don't have to do all the doom scrolling to get some of the what's going on behind the scene of the main headlines that matter. With Iran giving you the daily update there, as we predicted, price of oil continuing to go up. They say it's hovering around the $100 mark, but my predictions were we're going to see it could be as high as 120 to 150 a barrel before this settles down. And we do think things may be settling down in the next few weeks. I'll talk about that in a second. There's been a new leader, as you know, and this brought up in Iran. This is one of the sons of the former Ayatollah Khomeini. This is Mojab Khomeini. And already, as soon as his name was talked about, people were reflecting on how long they think this guy's going to live. Apparently, he's already been hit with something or other. We don't know if it was an attack or some other thing, but apparently he could lose his leg. And it's interesting how information gets pulled out on these poor fellows, because apparently he's already been in, this was some time ago, health institutions and getting medical treatment for, let's just say the male part of his anatomy. So looks like having problems in a number of areas there. We'll see what happens if he survives. President Trump not happy with Israel with bombing some of the refineries in Iran. I think President Trump is looking down the road to where Iran, once it gets rid of, if it does, their dictators, they could have a good economy there again because they export so much of their oil. It is an oil-based economy. So expressing to Israel not too happy with the bombings of refineries. Let's see if that backs off right away or in the near future. In terms of markets themselves, a lot of fear when the attacks first started, when the Israel-U.S. attacks on Iran first started, markets going pretty crazy. Seems to be a little bit of settling down right now. For instance, in Asia, where markets had really taken a drop, things are on a bit of a rebound. That would include Japan. And we're seeing also Bain Capital, which of course is a private equity investor group, has just launched a $10 billion fund for those wishing to and wanting to invest in Asia. That would be Japan, Malaysia, Philippines. So markets showing a little bit of longer term sense of optimism there. In the EU, there, we call the TSX in Canada and North America, or the 500. In EU, the composite that's used there, the stock 600, moving back up, taking a gentle move back up today in markets, suggesting that they think this war may not go on too long. We'll see what happens. EU actually facing some interesting challenges from China on their economy. China is really breaking into the EU truck market. China trucks, apparently of pretty high not just value, but pretty high quality, but a lot lower price. So EU struggling with some China-related issues in more ways than one. Mining companies themselves, if you're a mining company with just one main asset, be it gold or whatever it might be, if you're going to be those stocks are taking a little bit of a dip, but diversified mining companies doing a little better. Gold bouncing back up. And tech stocks growing back, and growth stocks settling down, moving back upward again. This is markets trying to perceive and getting a sense of the future here. And that means actually that the market, that the traders also are reducing their bets on a rate hike. They thought they would see that, and now that's again a sign of maybe some near-term stability there. We're going to have to watch it, especially as you look at Asia. Many of the Asian countries right now, because of the concern about energy shortage with their lack of oil, especially when you're talking about China relying on Iran, imposing a 4-day work week and announcing school closures across some entire countries just to try and preserve energy. Again, it makes the point, I don't know, I have to say it over and over, that Canada has really failed the world in this regard. If we had allowed, if our Liberal government had allowed the type of high refined Canadian oil and LNG products to be developed and pipelined to places like China, to places like Europe, where they wouldn't have to Europeans keep financing Putin's war on Ukraine. Province of Quebec, I've said this before, banning pipelines crossing their territory, which would have provided literally life-preserving oil and gas to Europe. Hopefully, this terrible situation that we're facing now in Ukraine and in China, having to rely on Iran, hopefully this is going to wake some of us up, especially the politicians in Canada who still walk around terrified about the extreme green vote and the extreme environmentalist vote. Not so much to worry about there. We try and encourage those politicians to realize you really want to lower global emissions. It should be Canadian refined products that are upticked and being exported abroad. Well, the situation also coming back to Canada, where the government has awarded a $900 million contract to Bombardier, and this is for the construction of drones. You know, I said when I was Minister of International Trade and also Public Safety, I gave the go-ahead and actually the order to be looking for our defense services to be looking and working closely. This is way back in the mid-2000s with Israeli drone production. They were leading the world at the time, and I sensed that we would be coming to the day when drones would be coming to the fore. And now that there seems to be money directed towards Bombardier, I just say one thing to members of Parliament: make sure that those contracts are indeed open contracts, not just getting sole sourced. Bombardier has had a long time favorable and cozy relationship with the federal Liberal government, so these contracts still need to be watched. It's good we're doing this, but they need to be watched that they're not being sole sourced. Well, looking at other things that are happening in Parliament, we've been talking about this bill called Bill C9, which is purported to be reducing hate and dealing with hate speech. And the only way it's being able to go forward is that the separatists in Quebec are joining with the Liberals to do this. There's a particularly alarming part of this bill, and that is that the Attorney General, when it came to hate crimes, before anybody could be charged, it had to go to the Attorney General for approval. And that's because it's such a sensitive area. Now that provision is being removed. Attorney General does not have to be consulted. Police can go ahead on their own and do the charging on these particular crimes. It's going to become a lot like we read almost daily in the UK, where police just show up at people's doors and arrest them for things that the police have seen on the internet. Very dangerous direction that we're heading in here, folks. I've been in Iran years ago when all of these hate type crimes were put in. Things you couldn't say, things you couldn't do. I've been to the Ukraine way back before the Soviet Union was starting to melt, and saw the very strong actions that any dictatorial government always takes on religious speech and the protections for it. So I don't like this overall direction. The Prime Minister needs to be asked, what is the rush? Why are you pushing this through? Why are you taking away what's called the good faith provisions, where somebody, and this goes not just for Christians, it could be Islamists, it could be Jewish, it could be Baha'i faith, where they're making statements in good faith, they can't be charged with hate crime. This is a very scary direction that we're going into. Another area where the federal Liberals are really moving quickly, a new parliamentary budget officer. Now, remember, the parliamentary budget office was put in place by the Stephen Harper Conservative government, and it was done to have an arm's length monitor, we could say, on the budget and the budget process. Because typically when a government puts out a budget, as I know this as a finance minister formerly, I've put out budgets, and of course you say lots of glowing things about your own budget, and you brag about it all the time. There needs to be independent, arm's length, somebody not from working from within the finance government, not from working within government at all, to make pronouncements about the budget and take a hard look at it. And as you know, Yves Giroux was in that place for a while, but when he came out with statements about the last federal Liberal budget like that, it was not sustainable. He even said it was stupefying, some of the things that were being proposed there. He has been ushered off the scene. The Liberals now putting in a new parliamentary budget officer. No real surprise there. Well, we've seen the Supreme Court moving again in terms of limiting freedom of speech. The ongoing, if we see Bill C9 going ahead, that's going to be more limitations. Supreme Court, with some of their rulings, also showing themselves to be very activist, taking away freedom of speech. Not just the Supreme Court, but other levels of court. Just the recent court judgment, this is just below the Supreme Court, where a grade 9 teacher who was subjected to and needed as part of their repertoire, as part of their resume, to show that they had the skills to teach grade 9. They had to take a grade 9 math test, which seems reasonable. They called that discriminatory. They took it to court and they won. So it's now discriminatory to ask teachers to take tests. It's getting a little out of hand, folks, all at the hands of the federal liberals. So you might want to think about how you're voting in that direction. In the U.S., we just saw media there very concerned about, as we are in Canada, and they are media reports about the Toronto consulate being bombed, the U.S. consulate being attacked, and they were concerned about sleeper cells in the U.S. There are also so-called sleeper cells in Canada, and very concerning. One of the Ayatollah Khomeini's, one of his last announcements publicly, it went worldwide, where he said in a quiet voice, after he had done his pronunciation, he gave out a series of numbers that didn't seem to be associated with anything. And now, of course, it's seen to be code to so-called sleeper cells. Sleeper cells are simply people of extreme Islamist views who are in all of our countries and who, if given the order, will start to just kill people more or less at random. It's a real concern. Security services rising in Canada and the U.S. and around Europe on that. So here's my warning to the federal Liberal government. As we now know, there are more and more people starting to run out of Iran. And we're even going to see the members of the Iranian Revolutionary Guard who can see what's coming at them, can see that they're probably going to crater. They're going to be wanting to come into other countries. As a matter of fact, they've been given the word to get into other countries, claim refugee status, get in there and be prepared to continue the fight. So the Canadian government, I say this, and the U.S. is doing it. Nobody to come into Canada from the Iran's Revolutionary Guard Corps. Nobody should be allowed in, even if they say they're seeking asylum. There's other countries they can go to. Very dangerous move there. The particular votes on that, by the way, on the religious protection being moved out of our Constitution, they're being forced through at a rapid rate. Call your MP, call the Prime Minister's office and ask why the big push on this. Well, some interesting trends. I'd like to keep you up on some of the trends we see in Gen Z, just so that you know what your kids are doing, but also to give them a sense of what they're doing. Their recent tests and views and surveys show that Gen Z are actually the worst at spotting false information and are being seen as the most gullible when it comes to news. Stanford University just completed a test of a multitude of age groups, 3,466 Gen Z alone, being asked if they could pick out from a series of newscasts which were the fake Russian news items. Only 3 Gen Zs from 3,466 students were able to spot the fake news. And what's happening is Gen Z, we all get trapped in our own echo chambers, but Gen Z more than any other, trapped in their TikTok echo chambers and trapped more. They're listening more and they get more of their views from comments that people are making rather than from hard news or from doing the hard work of fact checking. Well, it's not all bad for Gen Z. There's the Bank of America Institute, which does a lot of trending evaluation, has an article out called From Barstools to Barbells, and it's talking about, I've talked about this last week, as you know, those who are regular followers here, about the trend away from heavy drinking or away from alcohol at all by Gen Z. They're moving to the gym and they're moving in big numbers. They're seeing that not just in the US and Canada, but in the UK. Planet Fitness, one of the largest gym networks, is expanding their barbell areas. I go to Planet Fitness myself, and I can tell you I've noticed over the last couple of years, real increase in Gen Zs. There's a great sign. And another interesting sign, at the New York City Marathon, it is now the largest age group. The largest cohort is the 25 to 29-year-olds. among Gen Zs, something of a bit of a status symbol in terms of marathon running. I'm still running marathons myself, so I'm feeling the pressure from the Gen Zs. They are definitely passing me, including the female runners. People in that generation really getting fit here. The another situation that is caught people's attention in terms of some music trends among Gen Z. Four teenage brothers who have gone completely viral. They got 6 million views now. They're making all kinds of money. And what they're doing is playing albums from the 2000s. So what we're talking about, Coldplay or other albums. And what they've been doing is they literally, their dad is filming them playing albums in their garage, albums from the 2000s. It's become hugely popular as there's a swing away from other types of music. So whether it's Coldplay or Goo Dolls or whatever it might be, really catching on. Teenage girls especially seeming to like this. Recently at the Bowery Ballroom, there was their first sold-out event and getting lots of attention. Some commentators are suggesting it's a move away from some of the harshness of hip hop, not just the brain-numbing, pounding beat, but some of the we're hearing from groups. The people are finally reacting to a lot of the degrading lyrics that are in TikTok, referring to females as hoes, and a lot of derogatory language and presenting young girls and women as being basically emotional train wreck individuals. And so quite rightly, a bit of a move away from that to some other types of music. We'll see if that continues. Well, baby's gut health. Are you ready for this? And this is young moms here. Baby's gut health. A whole new wave of moms, and they're actually being called carnivore motherhood, because they've really been caught up in this whole wave of what's good for your gut, and increasing numbers proposing formulas that have raw egg yolk. How about this? Bone broth popsicles, and chicken liver purees for babies. Like, not my particular to taste, but it's a real movement there. I'm just reporting the facts. I'm not making comments here. Well, Days Magazine, Days Platform reports that there's also quite a significant uptick in something product. They've got something called the Boyfriend Book Box, and this is where girls are ordering. It comes 4 times a year. You get a box, and it's got romance books in it, pretty dark romance, what they're calling steamy romance. And inside the book, by the way, it's $497 a year for the subscription to get these book boxes 4 times a year. Included in that is the fragrance of your imaginary boyfriend. And also, shall I say, there's a toy inside the box. Also, I'll leave that to your imagination. So not so good if that doesn't seem to be a very healthy trend there, but really taking off in the markets. But to counter that, New York Magazine is reporting that an app called Quitter, this is being put together by young men who are recognizing the long-term and even short-term dangers of being addicted and being on porn. And so they've got an app out there, and it's a free app. They're up to 1.5 million views or regular subscribers on that, and using different methods to get young guys moved off of porn and into things that are more wholesome and less degrading, especially less degrading to women. Well, talking about romance, big news for romance followers, whether you're talking about on the football field or off the football field. But Travis Kelce has announced he is going to sign. He's going to sign with Kansas City Chiefs. There's been a lot of speculation he was getting higher offers, even just for 1 year. He's one of the best tight ends in history, in NFL history. And Kansas City fans rejoicing. He's saying, I'm going to stick things here. I'm going to stay with my man, Patrick, as quarterback, see if they can maybe pull off a miracle and get another Super Bowl. So that's going to really, the romance between his fans and him, the fact that he's staying on in Kansas City in spite of the fact he could have been getting more than the $12 million he signed for. Haven't heard from Tay if she likes that news, but stay tuned. We'll see what happens. Thanks for tuning in, folks. See you tomorrow. Bye now.